Welcome to FootballGamePlan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and we're kicking off the 2013 NFL season by previewing the NFC North by naming an all-conference team. So let's start this video off by naming the starting quarterback on our list.
Aaron Rodgers is the prototype of what you want at the quarterback position. He's athletic, he's accurate, and he also has that killer instinct. He's definitely worthy to start at quarterback on this all-conference team. Peterson is not just the best back in this division, but the best back in the league. And what he did last year, coming off that gruesome knee injury to rush for 2,000 yards, is of legendary status. Matt Forte, aka Big Smooth, is one of the most elusive and versatile runners in the game today. This guy can do it out of the backfield. He can run tough inside the tackles and also has the speed to take it the distance. If you told me to create my dream wide receiver, I would use every attribute from Calvin Johnson. 6'5", 245 pounds, 4.3 speed, and has the hands like Velcro. Give me a guy like Calvin Johnson any day of the week. I'm a big fan of Brandon Marshall's game. Here's a guy that has all the athleticism in the world, and you could tell that he plays with passion, and you want somebody like that on your team. And when he gets that football in his hands, he only has one goal in mind, that's to get to the end zone. Quiet as kept, Brandon Pettigrew has put together a very nice career at the tight end position for Detroit. You look at what he's done over the course of his 4 seasons, over 2,400 yards at almost 10 yards a catch. Reggie Bush definitely gets my vote for the all-purpose player on this all-conference team. You look at what he can bring to the table for an offense. Explosive runner, deadly receiver out of the backfield, and he definitely has the ability to make one miss. I think he may even top over 1,500 yards for Detroit in that offense. Matt Kalil was as good as advertised last season for the Minnesota Vikings, protecting the blind side of Christian Ponder, and this guy has future All-Pro, perennial All-Pro written all over him. Guard Rob Sims is the most consistent, and he's quite honestly the best piece of that Lions offensive line. They really have to do a better job of protecting Matt Stafford. There's no question about Rob Sims and what he brings to the table. John Sullivan, since being drafted out of Notre Dame back in 2008, this guy has been one of the best centers in the league. Quietly, Josh Sitton has been a very good player for the Green Bay Packers on the inside and looking to take that next step in 2013, pushing for his first Pro Bowl bid. Rounding out our offensive line is Riley Reiff, playing left tackle this year after being on the right side during his rookie season. This would be a good chance for him to showcase his skills that made him one of the top players taken in the 2012 draft. Now let's take a look at the second team preseason all-conference team in the NFC North. You look at Jay Cutler, should have a big season under Mark Trestman. Look for big things out of him. You look at Reggie Bush, first season with the Lions. I think that was a great move. And even their all-purpose player on the second team, Randall Cobb, an outstanding player that can do it all as a receiver, as a returner. You can even line him up in the backfield and he'll be effective. And 2 new guys from the Bears have made this list as a second teamer. Martellus Bennett, tight end, should have a fine year. And Jermon Bushrod coming over from the New Orleans Saints via free agency. Still one of the best defensive players in the league, Julius Peppers lands a spot on our list as our starting defensive end. He's still one of the best pure athletes in football, period. And on the inside, you have Ndamukong Suh, who stepped up last year back to his pass rushing ways from the interior with 8 sacks on the season. Kevin Williams of the Minnesota Vikings may not be the premier player that he once was. He's getting up there in age, but he still is one of the best defensive linemen in the National Football League. I could say the same thing for Jared Allen, but this is a guy that can turn it on at any point in time in the game and be virtually unblockable. Still one of the best pass rushers you see out there in football. Clay Matthews is one of those players that no matter what you do offensively, he will find his way to the quarterback. Last year he played in only 12 games, but still came away with 13 sacks. Since coming over from Tennessee, Stephen Tulloch has been a very productive player for the Detroit Lions. Over the last 2 seasons, he's accumulated over 160 tackles. I've always been a big fan of Chad Greenway and what he brings to the table, whether it be in the passing game or in the running game. Number 52 is always around the football. He can even line up on a strong side. He can be a weak side backer. You can even play him in the middle in nickel situations. Definitely worthy of being a first-team linebacker on this all-conference squad. You have to put Charles Tillman on this list. One, he's a former Raging Cajun, but two, last season he was all over the football field. 3 defensive touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and 10 forced fumbles. Speaking of being all over the football field, rookie cornerback Casey Hayward had 6 interceptions from the slot position. Look for him to expand his role and be all over that secondary this year for Green Bay. And you have to like what Morgan Burnett brings to the table. Here's a guy that has tremendous range, sideline to sideline, decent ball skills, but also isn't afraid to come up and lay the pop on a receiver. And speaking of laying the pop on a wide receiver, Harrison Smith had a surprising rookie campaign. A lot of people knocked this pick for the Minnesota Vikings. I was one that was included, but this is a guy that showed up big time last season, helped solidify the back end of that defense, and he's only going to grow in year 2. Now let's take a look at the defensive second team preseason all-conference members for the NFC North. You see Glover Quinn, a new addition to the Detroit Lions, should help out the back end of that defense. And speaking of the back end, Sam Shields is an outstanding cornerback for the Green Bay Packers, has lockdown capability. You also look at Lance Briggs, the wily vet at outside linebacker, and 2 Detroit Lions I think are going to have huge years, and that's Nick Fairley, the defensive tackle, and DeAndre Levy, who's a very underrated linebacker. Blair Walsh project was in effect last season for the Minnesota Vikings. Here's a guy that made the Pro Bowl as a rookie, hitting 10 for 10 on field goals of 50 yards or more. Adam Podolak has a very strong leg and did a great job last season for the Chicago Bears, averaging over 42 yards a punt. Randall Cobb is one of those guys that you can say impacts field position no matter where he touches the football, whether it be as a receiver, as a runner, but on this team he's going to make our starting list as a kickoff returner. And you have to put Devin Hester on this list in some form of fashion. He's going to make our team as a punt returner. Yes, he may not still have the same flash that he did a while back, but this is a guy that's still very dangerous with the football. I wouldn't kick the ball to him if I was punting. The key offensive rookie in this conference, in my opinion, will be Jonathan Franklin for the Green Bay Packers. I know they drafted Eddie Lacy, but I think this guy gives them exactly what they need out there running back position. Explosiveness, a guy that can catch the football out of the backfield, and the elusiveness to make defenders look stupid in the open field. And the key defensive player in this division will be Xavier Rhodes for the Minnesota Vikings. They needed a cornerback in the worst way. They got one of the best ones in the draft that was falling. And here's a guy that matches up very well with wide receivers, has ball skills as he was a former wide receiver. And they needed a guy like this to come in and start right away. And they got a good one in Xavier Rhodes. And let's take a look at the coaching staff that's going to be leading this NFC North preseason all-conference team. They're going to be led by head coach Mike McCarthy of the Green Bay Packers, one of the better coaches in the game, great offensive mind. And speaking of offense, Mark Trestman, head coach of the Bears, will be the offensive coordinator. And when you look at the rest of the position coaches, Gunther Cunningham, you need a coach like him on your team, whether it's high school, college, or pro, scream in your face type of guy, but he's a damn good defensive line coach, as well as Mike Singletary, the same coaching style as Gunther Cunningham, but definitely gets his point across.